Now, an interesting conversation in the comments for the last video was the perception that Amad was taking Mbeumo's space when he came on. It was an interesting take that I wanted to analyse. First up, I want to show the dynamic between Dalot and Mbeumo within the context of Amorim's game plan. This is Amorim's game plan for the wing-backs to play on the top line. I analysed this in pre-season and it's followed through to the real thing. In this example, Dalot is on the inside of Mbeumo, so what tends to happen is the 10 chooses the position and then the wing-back will react to that, taking up the other position. And in this example, with Mbeumo dropping deep, Dalot is still holding that position on the top line. So how did it play out with Amad? The truth is exactly the same, but I can understand why people feel differently, and I'll come to that later. In all these examples, we can see the exact same positional play of the wing-back on the top line, either inside or outside, depending on the position the 10 takes up. So from a positional perspective, Amad was on point with what Amorim wanted. But how did it go in open play? Amad has just played the ball back to Mbeumo. As a left footer himself, he knows Mbeumo wants to come in onto his left foot. Amad makes this run, opening this pocket, and Mbeumo attacks the space. This time it's a role reversal. Mbeumo makes the run to open the inside space for Amad to attack. So this showed great understanding of what the other wanted and playing selflessly to accommodate that. But this was another example of the appreciation Amad showed. 99 times out of 100, the left footer cuts inside, but Amad goes on the outside and should have found Mbeumo. But Amad opened Arsenal up lovely there. Now, why did some people think Amad was taking Mbeumo's space? As this ball is coming into Mbeumo, Amad has to go on the outside to take Lewis Skelly away. But for some reason, he runs into Mbeumo's path, taking Lewis Skelly with him, and United crowd themselves out. That was poor play from Amad. Compare that to Dalot in a similar situation, who goes on the overlap. This is where it gets a bit more intricate. We can see Dalot a lot deeper than Mbeumo, which has pulled Calafiori up, opening the channel for Mbeumo. The reason this happened will be explained after the next example. We can again see Dalot a bit deeper than Mbeumo, and if Calafiori followed him out, he would have had that space down the channel as we saw in the last example. But in both these examples, Dalot was originally on the top line and dropped back when the centre-backs didn't have a central progressive route. So this was more down to the flow of the game, rather than a tactical ploy to give Mbeumo the space on the outside. I did a video on Amorim's box formation in pre-season and pretty much trashed it, so it was only right to revisit this after the Arsenal game, and to be fair, it went well in my opinion. Before we look at the Arsenal game, why was I so critical of the box during pre-season? Firstly, the top of the box always contains the central centre-back, so when you have a situation like this, where we have two technically average players in De Ligt and Ugarte, on balance of probabilities it's going long. So there was a lack of variety between playing long, which is fine, and playing short, which happened infrequently. The other issue was, when we went long, either the distribution was poor with these long loopy balls that gave the opposition time to get into position, or we didn't have the support around the striker. Now going to the Arsenal game, United played with a lot more variety from the box. From an analytical perspective, Arsenal would anticipate the ball going to Yoro or long. They would not expect the ball to go into the top of the box. Not only does it, it goes to De Ligt. As the ball goes into De Ligt, we can see how that has tied up Arsenal's top line press, opening this space for Yoro. In fairness, United's progression wasn't great, but surprised Arsenal with that play. In this example, we have Fernandes at the top of the box, which we don't normally see. Before I show you what happened next, I want to go back to the first example. We got boxed up because Dalot was a lot deeper, allowing Martinelli to press high. Going back to the second example, Yoro is in a lot more space than the first example, with Martinelli a lot higher. And that's because of how high Dalot is, pinning Martinelli. We have the box again, and for the second time, Bayindur goes into De Ligt, under pressure. And as the ball gets out to Yoro, we can see he is in acres again. As we run this on, he's carried the ball 50 yards, and we can again see how Dalot's high position pulled Martinelli back up the field, opening that space for Yoro. I'm giving Amorim credit for this in-game tactical change. In addition, we played the ball into the top of the box 3 times inside the first 37 minutes. We probably didn't do it that many times in the whole of pre-season. Now let's look at United's long ball distribution. From here, Bayındır hits a lovely flighted ball. That's right onto the head of Cunha. The pace of the ball doesn't allow Gabriel to get in front of Cunha. Cunha gets crunched, but we can see Mount making a third man run off him, looking for the flick on, and Mbeumo is in a position to compete for the ball if it went that side. So much better support options. As the box is resetting, this is a lovely ball strike from Bayındır. It's not 100% perfect, but it was on Dorgu's head from 60 yards. But this example showed he can ping the ball flat, and the previous example showed he can flight the ball into those mid pockets. In this final example, I like this variation. We have two midfield players at the top of the box, but De Ligt pings a lovely pass to Mbeumo, who gets fouled and Calafiori booked. The devil's verdict is, thank you to the viewers that started that conversation. This wasn't about proving that wrong or right, it was just an analysis. Because in my opinion, Mbeumo would probably rather play with Dalot because attackers want to be the main men. That's what they are paid to do. When you have two good attackers in the same vicinity, the potential is there for them to take away from each other. That didn't happen in this game in my opinion, but could happen in the future. But I think Amad and Mbeumo do work, but in a slightly different way. There is a rugby union coach called Michael Checker who introduced the phrase game finishers in reference to his substitutes. I see Dalot starting the majority of games with Amad being a game finisher. But to have options like this, players who play in the same position but with different profiles, is what we want. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.